You all have been very patient, and I mean very patient. What's going on, you guys? Slim here to finally show you guys my updated Thunder Dragon deck profile. I know this video is well overdue, and I don't know how overdue by much, but quite overdue. But for those of you that know, I absolutely love Thunder Dragons, and yes, I did go back to this deck. I actually played this deck at 2 California regionals back-to-back weekends, and I did okay. I'm not going to sit here and say I did amazing. I did not do as well as I wanted to, especially at the second regional, but I am getting my feet wet again. I actually have just not been practicing as much as I used to. You guys know school, work, etc. It's not an excuse, but I definitely am happy that I chose to pick this deck up again and play it because it's a deck I know quite well, and I was very happy with how the deck performed and just very happy with the things that I could learn from these last two regionals, and this would definitely be a deck I would take going forward into a YCS or any event. I know you guys have wanted to see pure Thunder Dragons. This is it, you guys. I switched back to pure from the combo variant, and I'll talk about why I did as we go through the deck profile, but hopefully you guys do enjoy it. I know you guys really enjoy my Thunder Dragon deck profiles here on the channel. For those of you that are new, consider subscribing. I hope you guys will give this video a like. I know you guys enjoy, like I said, this content. And yeah, we'll get into it. So pure Thunder Dragons, you guys. This was the build that I used at the San Jose Regional as well as the LA Regional. There was a couple card differences. I'll explain them as I go through, but this is like the more updated build of what I played in LA. So for the Thunder Dragons, of course, we got 3 OG. You have to play it. 3 copies of Dark, 3 copies of Hawk, 3 copies of Roar, 3 copies of Matrix, and 1 duo to round out like all the Thunders. Okay, I don't need to explain OG. You just play OG at 3. There's no point to never not play it. Dark, we are playing the pure deck, so we want to see more of the Thunders. We want to combo them with the Lupine. We just want to see more of these cards, especially because this and Roar are the best targets for Allure Darkness as well as a Lupine. One thing I will admit though is that I did only play 2 copies of Roar in San Jose, and I actually really liked it. The reason was I noticed that I only wanted to see this card when I had a Allure, when I had a Lupine, but after further testing I did actually want to see it a little bit more, so I put a third copy back in. In Matrix, you guys know pure, a lot of people don't like this card at 3, and I've gone back and forth of whether I like 2 or 3. One thing I noticed though is that the more Thunders you have, the more possible combos you can do. I know that people could say it could brick. It didn't really brick for me. I only ran the 1 duo. I didn't run more than 1. I noticed that although some players liked playing 2, for me 2 just never really seemed optimal. It's something that I do want to test going forward. There's a lot of things I want to test going forward, but 3 Matrix was fine. If there was one that you could cut to 2, I guess you could cut Matrix, but you'll notice that as you play the deck, you just want to see more Thunders, and then duo was just solid because you know, as a follow-up play, it was really good, and that's mostly what you want to do, is make it your follow-up play. Some people have gone as far as to play 3 copies of this, and I just don't know how. Like, I don't know how. Like, more power to you if you can do that, because for me, I found it a lot harder. I could see where the second duo could come up in the grind game, or it could come up for just added pressure, but like I said, it'll be something I'll test going forward. But those were all the Thunder monsters. I have no complaints about those. It's pure. You guys should already know. And then probably, which became my favorite card, was actually 3 Aloof Lupine. Shout out to my brother Jerry. He got me the 3 hollows. Yeah, this card was just insane. Every time I saw this card, I was able to make plays. This card rarely ever got stopped. No one really wanted to stop it. It banishes for cost, which is so broken. So even if they do Ash or hit the effect or whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. You're still getting something off of it. Then you just link climb and you just start doing things. And to complement that, I played just 2 copies of Solar. So I know some players go back and forth whether they want 3 Solar, 2 Lupine, or this ratio that I did on 3 Lupine, 2 Solar. I noticed just in testing, I wanted to see Lupine more. I know there's the huge argument depending on if you're playing cards like Dimension Shifter, which I'm actually not playing in this deck, but that's something we'll talk about afterwards. I really liked Lupine. I just liked opening it. I felt that it opened a lot of plays, and at worst, if we drew multiple copies and we had a Allure Darkness that wasn't a Allure target, that didn't lose us any of our real combo pieces if we started with the Loop to begin with. So these cards are just very solid. Solar is still Solar at the end of the day. It still does things. Still producing that token is amazing, especially when making some of the Link monsters we play. And then the hand traps I played, of course I played 3 Ashes, the most generic hand trap. I feel you have to play this card in pretty much every deck. There's no reason not to. There's always something you can Ash, and it just always has value. Orcus is definitely one of the hardest matchups, so being able to Ash the Mermaid or Ash the Harpor or whatever is, you know, happening is really important. I think this card is just always going to be a staple going forward. And then in San Jose, I played 3 copies of Phantasme, but in this list in LA, I played 2. So the reason why I played 3 initially is I felt there was going to be a lot of Striker at that regional, and there was. I ended up playing 4 rounds of Striker. So this card was really good, but I noticed that against other matches, this card was just very subpar. Like, you didn't really want it against... You didn't want it in the mirror. The mirror, randomly, it never really came up because good players could just play around Phantasme if they thought you had it. So this card was just not very good. It was a very easy side out in the mirror, as well as just against decks like True Draco or other back row decks like Subterror or anything like that. This card just didn't really come in. Again, though, one thing it does have that I do like about it, that it is a lower target, and I know that's not the best way to use this card, but sometimes being able to get it out of your hand to draw fresh cards and continue comboing is really important. So 2 was fine. I actually really liked it at 2, and especially in LA, I never really missed the 3rd, so there was that. That's pretty much it for the monsters. Then on to the spells. My spells are very standard. I think these are the most standard spells in the deck. 3 Allure, it's basically Pot of Greed. I mean, being able to trigger a Dark or a Roar off of it is insane. At worst, you can banish your extra Aloof Lupines or your Phantasme, so the card is just nuts. 3 copies of Instant Fusion. To me, I don't know how players play without this card. I understand why, like, some people don't want to play this card. They feel it's not necessary. I have a hard time believing that. I feel that this card can do so much. It can start you off with Kaminari attack. It can help you go into your first Titan. It can help you make your Summoner. It can, going second, it can, you know, it's so good in the mirror. Like, literally, this is what I lost to when I played my brother Jerry. He literally instant fusioned me, and, you know, I had to, you know, it basically baits and negate. Just making Thousand Eyes is so strong. You know, just taking a monster in the mirror, like a Colossus in the mirror, is so strong. Instant fusion just really, really solid. Like I said, I know some players don't play it, but for me, I felt that it was definitely a card you want to have in here. It's a starter card that you need when you're playing the Thunder Dragon deck. And then 2 copies of Thunder Dragon Fusion. This card is just amazing. I really missed playing this card. So one thing I'll tell you guys is I finally made the switch from the Sekka's Light build back to Pure Thunder after a long time. I played the combo build for so long, but one thing I did notice is that I missed having real spells. I missed that my deck was, you know, my deck felt like such a glass cannon that getting stopped by certain hand traps could just end your turn, and then you really didn't have a follow-up. If they broke your board, you couldn't really come back. You committed your whole extra deck pretty much outside of some, like, not so helpful cards in the grind game. This card gives you an amazing grind game. It's so strong. Just being able to make Titan, being able to shuffle back resources, being able to banish this to search Duo, or if you side Denko Sekka like I did in LA, being able to banish and search Denko, being able to banish and search any Thunder was so solid, and this card is just absolutely amazing. I didn't play 3 though. I'm not playing Desires in this deck, so I felt 2 was fine. I never needed the 3rd, but the card was just amazing. And then the 1 Gold Sark, I mean, this card is just nuts. It's at 1 for a reason. So that's it for the spells. And then my traps, I played 3 copies of Impermanence. I felt this card was also really, really strong, along with the Ashes. You want the most generic hand traps, and to me, I felt that Ash and Impermanence were those cards. Just being able to stop something going first or second. This card was just really solid in the mirror, too, being able to turn off Colossus. You guys wouldn't believe, like, how annoying staring down an opposing Colossus or a Titan is in the mirror match. So being able to turn them off was really solid. This card is just really good at any time. Just hitting key effects is important, too, and it can just blanket monsters' effects on the field, so it was really solid. And then I did play the 2 copies of Dynamiscus. If you guys saw my brother's deck profile that I did, he played 3 copies. I only played 2. I opted for 40 cards. This is a 40 card build, whereas he played 42 cards with some extra. I think he played an extra Duo, an extra copy of this. This card was cool. Again, I did not see it as much. People were asking me what that situation was where I saw it. It was actually against a Borreload, of all things. I know, crazy. In 9 rounds in San Jose, I saw it once, and literally it was there to get rid of a Borreload, so it literally was insane. It's something I'm going to keep testing, though, because I know that if I up this to a 3rd copy, I might see it more, but again, it's a deck I don't really want to take over 40 cards. Like, I want to be able to see my starter cards, I want to be able to see my combo plays, and I just want to make my, you know, make my fusion board as consistently as possible. But I definitely see the potential of this card. It's so good being able to just get rid of any problematic face-up card, and it will come up in almost every matchup. So this is definitely a card I'll continue to play going forward. Shout out to Cam Neal. He was actually the first person that played this. A lot of people shout him out. It's important you guys know that he was one of the first players that brought this card to the forefront of the Thunder Dragon deck. But yeah, that was it for the main deck. It was 40 cards. And then just on to my extra. My side I'm not going to show because my side's differed for the events, and it's going to differ, of course, going forward to the YCS. But I can tell you I played very generic stuff like Nibiru. I played cards like Imperial Order. I played cards like Twin Twisters, Denko Sekka. Denko Sekka was really solid for me. Being able to search it against back row decks was really important. I didn't play more than 1, though, because I felt like it's searchable. There was no point. But you guys kind of get it. There's cards I'm also going to test like Super Poly and stuff like that. Just, you know, I kind of wanted to get my feet wet again with the deck, get more familiar with the deck like I used to be. and going forward into the YCSs and other regionals and more events, I'll have you know, an updated, of course, side deck for you guys. But extra deck real quick, of course, the King 3 Colossus is... Don't need to explain, this is the heart and soul of the deck. I played only 2 copies of Titan, so for me the third never came up. I know from my brother Jerry, the third did come up for him. There was never really a time where I needed a third one. I usually recycled it off of Fusion to begin with. I know that that's not the best thing, but there were more Link monsters I wanted in this deck, so I opted for only 2, and it only, I honestly, I think sometimes maybe summoned a second one. It didn't really happen that much, but Titan is insane. Being able to just pop cards is ridiculous. It's just such a solid card. So good in the mirror. Whoever makes this first wins. Like, it's just so ridiculous. This card is really the nuts. It feels so good to play this card again after so long, because it feels like forever since I played Titan. Then the other fusions, the instant fusion targets, I've got the Thousand Eyes and the Kaminari attack. You guys already know, start your combos off, and then this, of course, going second is so ridiculous. Just being able to take your opponent's monster in the mirror, being able to take just any monster, bait out in a gate, and then you can link it off into LAKEY is just so ridiculous. So I feel, like I said, I think instant fusion is always going to be a staple in this deck. Then, of course, the mentioned LAKEY. The options with this, of course, is when you take the monster with Thousand Eyes Restrict, then linking off into this, as well as if you normal summon Dragon Matrix, if it's your only play, summon that. Then if you have any in-hand effects, you can still make LAKEY and a Colossus, and I really like that. So this card's still really good. Its effect does come up. Being able to save yourself from damage is really good. Then the other Link monsters, I played Lambda, I played some Summoner, I played Wee Witch's Apprentice, Nightmare Phoenix, Nightmare Unicorn, BLS Link, and the Borreload. Okay, so this comes up all the time because of Aloof Lupine. Since it's not a Thunder, just being able to make a generic Link 2 is important. I like the fact that this is light. I know that that's random. It comes up sometimes for Duo. Just it's also a generic Link 2 that's very solid, so I really like it. Summoner, you guys already know it's the best card. Being able to make this it will make it so you have multiple Colossus. If you don't fear Nibiru, if you don't feel your opponent is main decking it, you can just go off into multiple fusions, and they're really going to have a hard time breaking your board, so this card is solid. I did play the Wee Witch in San Jose. The reason is again with depending on how the Lupine banish went, depending on what certain cards I had in my hand, sometimes I would make this as my Link 2, and then I'd be able to basically put game on board because the Colossus under this just gets huge. So you're just able to game them with this card. You have to be careful with this card though, is you don't want to end on this card, because if you're playing against Orcus or a dark base deck, their darks gain 500, so that can sometimes ruin your strategy. And this also has the recyclability, which I really like. That didn't come up that much, but in testing it has, so that was a card that I did play. In LA though, I ended up cutting the Wee Witch and the Borreload. I did play the train cards because they were something that did come up for me once, even though that doesn't sound that great, but it was quite important. It could have won me a game that I ended up losing. I left my opponent at 16. They were able to get back into their deck and keep going, so it kind of sucked, but it is what it is. And then just generic removal. These are just really good. Of course, this in the mirror is ridiculous, but being able to spin a Colossus is so strong. And then this card, I'm going to tell you guys right now, is utterly insane. This is my favorite card, like my favorite Link in the deck. Every time I made this card, I pretty much won unless the opponent found a way to out it, and this card is quite hard to out, especially against Sky Striker. They do struggle to out it. They do have a couple outs, but man, when this card sticks on the board, it's so good. Being able to banish raids, being able to banish cards on the field is so strong, and yeah, like I said, a lot of players have a hard time answering this. This is definitely a card you guys should have in your arsenal somewhere. For a Link 3, it's definitely one of the best in my opinion, and you always will be making it with the level 7 or higher. I misplayed once and didn't make it like that. I rushed my plays and I made it. Luckily, I still won that game, but you always want to make sure you make it with like a Duo or a Colossus or even a Phantasme. A lot of times you can make it with a Phantasme. It just needs a level 7 or higher, so just being able to make this card is nuts. I think this card is definitely one of the best cards in the deck, especially because this deck can make it so easily. And then Borreload, I never made this. It's so crazy. When I used to play Thunder, I used to make this card all the time. I just don't make it as much anymore, but it's still a card that I wanted to have because I felt that, you know, the mirror does come up. If you can make a Borreload in the mirror, you pretty much win. To out there Borreload, you need a Borreload, so there are those situations. But again, in LA, I did cut this and the Wee Witch for the train cards just because sometimes you need that extra 2,000 to put game on board, or sometimes the opponent will leave 2 monsters on the board and you can burn them for 2,000, then punch over them with the other Dreadnought, and it's just game. So yeah. But yeah, that's it, you guys. That is my updated Thunder Dragon deck. I really love this deck. You guys already know. I don't need to explain that. You guys should know. This is definitely a Thunder Dragon advocate channel because we, you know, I just really love this archetype. I really love this deck, and I have ever since I first picked it up. And I just love to see all the innovations that have happened with it. I love the fact that I can play Pure again. And I love that Pure is meta. That Pure is, you know, just really, really good. It has really good matchups across the board. I do feel it does struggle with the Orcus matchup. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I had a horrible total like disgusting loss to Orcus. Like I just utterly got destroyed. But it's something that, you know, you have to learn from. You have to be able to, you know, kind of say, okay, you know, what could I have done differently? You know, different card choices, different side deck options. Now, I know the question that's going to be in the comments is, what about Shifter? How do you feel about Shifter, Slim? So something I am going to test. I didn't get enough time to test with it. Again, my testing has kind of been limited, unfortunately. But one thing I'll tell you guys is I know from friends that have played the card, they really like it. I've seen people success with it, and I completely understand how Shifter plus Solar is like broken. In the mirror, obviously it kind of sucks, but against anything else, it gives you such a good edge against Orcus, which again, I feel is definitely one of the deck's hardest matchups, because they just, you know, Ding just spins, Lingirsu just spins. Like, just being able to spin away cards really sucks. And, you know, they go first, they have Crescendo, which is a hard negate. They have ways around your board, and that's the one thing is you have to be very careful. I actually got blown out also by a main deck Super Poly, which was so ridiculous. You know, shout out to the Orcus player that played that. That was crazy. But overall, I really like Thunder. You guys already know this. I hope you guys enjoyed the deck profile. If you did, you guys know what to do. Give this video a thumbs up. Let me know your thoughts, any suggestions. I'm definitely open to taking suggestions from you guys. You guys know how much I love this deck, and I constantly want to improve with it as the format continues. Definitely one of the best decks going forward, in my opinion. I don't think it's the best deck, but I think it's definitely one of the best decks and has the potential to be the best deck. So I just want to play something that I enjoy, and that's what I've done, going back to what I kind of feel like my roots with Thunder Dragons, because it was a deck that when I played it in the beginning, I loved it, and I've loved it ever since. And playing pure just feels really solid. Also, for any of you guys that want to build this deck, you know, all these cards have actually been reprinted in the Mega Tins, which is crazy. You guys want to use my TCG player link, it's listed down below. It gives back to the channel, and I really do appreciate it. But yeah, you guys can build this deck as well, which is crazy. So I think it's awesome. I definitely love to know if you guys have built it, what you think of it, and any like techs or innovations you want to do with it going forward. We'll definitely talk about them, and we'll see a lot more updates to this deck going forward. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for watching.